Hi. So you just completed Dopey. It has now been 1 full week and 1 extra sleep. And I'm here to talk about post-Dopey recovery. Hopefully you've had a good week. Hopefully you're back home. Maybe you're not. Judging by all the Facebook posts that I see, most people are home and a lot of people are in that in-between spot prepping, thinking about Princess and how they should be recovering so they can still run Princess, or maybe even the Disneyland half, which is a little bit before Princess, I think. All right. So I am still Jill Bartholomew, head coach at Be Fierce Multisport. And just like you, I was down at Disney and ran all 4 races of Dopey. And boy, was it a fun one. Boy, was Sunday a hot one. And if you were behind the line when they shifted the course at the end, I'm both excited that you had the shorter course due to the heat and also a little sad that you didn't get to run the full 26.2. But either way, number one, you ran the course that the race director wanted you to run at the time that you were running it. And so don't ever feel like you ran less. With that, let's talk about recovery today. It was a long race, 48.6 miles for most people is a heck of a long distance. And for many of you who are listening, it may have been the first time you've done your first marathon, much less. Let's be honest here. If all these races were in a single day, it would be an ultra, almost a double ultra. We are well over the 50-kilometer mark. Okay. So let's first think about how are you feeling? And we're not talking mental state because I'm sure there's a lot of ups and downs with that right now. On the one hand, you completed it, or maybe you gave it your best shot and you didn't quite cross that finish line. But either way, you showed up at the finish, at the start line. On the other hand, you trained for it for so long and now it's behind you. So you might be asking, what's next? Well, you know what? We're not going to address that today, but those are all super valid questions that we all ask from time to time. But today we're going to be talking about how you are physically recovering. We all have different approaches to the mental aspect of recovering from a long race. First, you are probably still a little sore, maybe a little tired, feeling a little flat, maybe even still a little emotional recovery left to be done. And first thing here, you are not broken. This is called recovery and it's what it's like. Interestingly enough, I had a little back and forth with someone in one of the Facebook groups. And she said, "Oh my God, I can't believe that you would suggest people be up and running so soon. You know, your muscles were so tore up after that race." And she's absolutely right. Your muscles are, but it's recovery. And part of recovery is making sure that you actually give your body the ability to recover. So before we get into that, which is going to be the meat of today's episode, I want you to start thinking about the things that no one prepared you for. First, no one prepared you for carrying 30 pounds of medals through the parks. I hope you got your photos. I hope you posted them on Medal Monday. You got 6 medals. That means 6 Medal Mondays, right? No? Just one? Oh, well, guess we're going to have to go get some more. Anyways, the adrenaline is gone. And, what's left is, you did multiple days of running, multiple early mornings. We say 4, but it's really 5, maybe 6, depending on what time your flight were back home or your drive. A lot of hours on your feet. And it's not just the hours that we're running. It's also the hours standing at the bus stop, standing at security, standing for character pictures, standing in the corrals. And then afterwards, I'm sure you went through the parks at least some of the days. And it's those hours in the parks, in the lines. It's a lot, right? A lot of emotion, a lot of emotional highs, and probably some lows. I have yet to meet an athlete who has run a race that doesn't at some point in that race feel like, why am I here? Can this be done and over with? Like, it's normal. Even elites feel that way from time to time. And through all of this, you got basically no rest. Let's be honest. The sleep that we got was kind of just like a little bonus. It wasn't real. Aura ring informed me that I was in desperate need of sleep after we got home the night before Dopey. It didn't even bother logging it on the chart. It was as if I hadn't slept at all. All right. So we are 1 week after Dopey and about 5 weeks before Princess. If you are doing both, it is a balance right now between recovery from Dopey and getting everything else to bounce back. And if you are heading into Disneyland in a couple of weeks, your time frame is just a little bit shorter. You probably feel like you got pretty heavy legs right now. Maybe you still have a little bit of the post-race blues, not a lot of motivation to get back up and running. That's kind of normal. Sleep might still be a little weird. Let's face it, you had 5 days of not a lot of sleep, and then you hopped on a plane or in a car and you drove home. And, it's really only been about a week since then. Sleep hopefully is starting to get back to normal. And you might have some random aches and pains that are moving around. Maybe you banged up your foot, got some blisters. Maybe you twisted an ankle while you're out there. Even if you didn't get any of those, maybe you're going to lose a toenail. Maybe not. We're all different, but we all are going to have these after any major endurance activity. We're going to have little niggles here and there, and you need to pay attention to them. Most of them are your body just kind of healing and pulling itself back together. Every once in a while, those are more serious. So just always remember that discomfort is okay. Pain is always bad. And when you have pain, go get it checked out. All right. So today, we're kind of checking in. How are you doing? I care about you. If you're not one of my athletes, I still care about you. You did the race. You got it done. You showed up. And you know what? It was so fantastic while we were down there. I had so many people come up to me and be like, hey, Jill, I heard your podcast on Dopey. It was such a huge help. So I hope that those same people are listening here. First, how should you be feeling right now? And I just want to completely normalize this at the moment. Physically, 1 week out, your muscles are still repairing. Unless you are one of us who just we basically do this for a living, even then, your muscles still take time to repair. And, in a normal periodized training plan, after a big race, we would, of course, take some downtime. Now, downtime does not mean nothing. It means that our focus now turns towards repair. Okay. So if your legs are feeling, a bit heavy, tired even after short walks, maybe you feel great one day and the next day you feel kind of sluggish. That's really pretty normal. It's not you. You're not weird. Recovery, it's not a straight line from point A to point B. It's not something where you start out feeling crappy and then 5 days later, 10 days later, you feel amazing. And it is weirdly one of those things where the less you do, the worse you feel. But on the flip side, the more you do, the easier it is for you to hurt yourself. And so we need to, as we think about recovery and the activities that you're going to do for the next, say, week to 2 weeks, you need to really kind of find that balance. And it's very individual and very personal. When I have an athlete who does a major event like this, they will have on their plan short, 20, 30-minute recovery jogs. We'll not call them run, even though in their plan it'll say run, but it's more of a jog, like a zone 1, zone 2, bit faster than a walk, but shouldn't be like an all-out run, or on the bike, right? If they're a triathlete, they'll have a combination and, get in the water. Usually for triathletes doing full Ironman, for example, they'll get back in the water before they get back on the bike, before they get back on the run. As runners, many of you have Pelotons at home or some other stationary bike. Those are fantastic to use right now if you don't want to be out running. But the sad truth is, getting out there and doing some short jogs is going to make your muscles feel better faster. So at this point, recovery is active, but you are not back into training yet, even if you do have the Disneyland race or Princess, or maybe you're training for some other race, getting back into full on full intensity training this just 1 week out could be a little too soon. If you're super experienced in endurance activities, then maybe it's just right for you. You probably have some experience in it. If you don't, if this is your first time, find the balance. You should be thinking like movement. Movement is good. Movement is always good. Movement can come in the form of, maybe a faster paced walk, a easy jog. And I've told people in the past, I'm like, the day after a race, go for a jog. And, it's going to feel horrible that first time. That first 5 minutes, everything in you is like, I hate this. My body hurts. But then the more you do it, the less it hurts. And the next day is easier, and the next day is easier, and the next day is easier. A couple of years ago, when they first did Dopey and Dumbo when Coast to Coast returned, some of us did Dopey and Dumbo. I think there was about 70 of us. And doing that in such a short time span was really taxing. And the only way that that group of athletes really were able to do that is immediately jumping back into active recovery the very next day, if not the same day, after the Dopey Marathon. Here, same thing applies, but maybe on a different time scale. Just get moving. Don't be afraid to go out and go for a jog. I've seen some posts where people feel afraid. They say my muscles, are all tore up, micro tears, etc. So as a coach, I have multiple certifications from multiple coaching organizations. Every one of them agree. And let's face it, they don't all agree on everything. But on this point, they all agree is getting out there and getting movement is key. Obviously, you should be hydrating. And again, we talked about overhydrating. Did see some hyponatremia out there with people overhydrating on the course. That's never a good thing. But, keep yourself hydrated. Your body can't repair itself if it doesn't have the liquid in it, but it also needs high quality proteins. So continue eating the proteins. Carbohydrates. I know at this point we're all like, wow, we just did this thing. Maybe your appetite has started to settle down. Maybe it hasn't. But carbohydrates are still your friend. That doesn't mean to overindulge, but you don't need to not take carbohydrates in. Your body does need that fuel. All right. This is probably still not quite the right time to be entering a new diet. It's obviously a better time than, say, during the race or immediately prior to the race. But I would wait, if you have a new diet planned. Personally, I would wait until your body has recovered a little bit more, especially if you're still really sore. You shouldn't at this point be super sore. But if you are, make sure you're hydrating, taking those proteins in, taking the carbohydrates in, and make sure you are fueling your body. If you're not fueling your body, is going to take a lot longer to repair. And there's also been a lot of studies regarding alcohol that if you are a heavy drinker, immediately following endurance activities, you should kind of lay off that a little bit. Alcohol, especially excessive alcohol, can delay or even prevent your body from healing fully. In other words, if you drink a lot, you could actually lose strength when normally we would expect you, as part of the recovery process for an endurance event, to gain some strength. Now is not a good time for you to be doing things that test your fitness. You can be back into structured workouts now, but you should still be on a ramp back. You should not yet be at full intensity. Now, if you are on some training plans or RunDot or TriDot or any of these tools like that, those tools sometimes are very aggressive at getting you back into a full intensity plan. Normally, though, you'd want to take about 2 weeks. So we'd be about halfway there. So this being week 2 now, structure is okay, but it should still be at a reduced intensity, especially on the run. If you bike, you might find it more comfortable to be at a higher intensity on the bike than on the run. Because remember, it's not just about the strength in the muscles, but it's also about all the pounding that 50 miles of running exerted on your body, on your muscles, your bones, your joints, and that takes a little bit of time to heal back up. Now is probably not the right time to prove that you're recovered, and you should definitely avoid super hard sessions, especially strength sessions. Maybe now is not the time to go and try for a PR on your squats. That might break you for a little while. Increasing your volume is probably a bad idea unless you're using Dopey as a training for some other event and you're very experienced with endurance events. Now you should have a bit of a reduction in volume that's very comparative to what you were having immediately prior to the event on your taper. All right. And overly aggressive stretching while your body is still a bit, while your body is still a bit sore and your muscles and ligaments are still not kind of back to their pre-race, health. Aggressive stretching can cause you to develop other issues like, tendonitis or new pains that weren't there before. All right. And just because someone else is back to running doesn't mean that you are, right? And by running, I don't mean like taking like a little 20-minute jog. I mean, just because someone is out there posting on Strava 8-9 minute runs. I saw someone out there did a 16-mile run over the weekend at like a 9-minute pace and posted it in one of the groups. Meanwhile, other people in the same group are having a hard time with the soreness. So remember, everybody recovers at a different speed, and the amount of endurance activities that you do obviously has an influence on how quickly you recover from something like this. But if it's your first Dopey, if it's your first marathon, take it easy. That doesn't mean sit on the couch. I would never advocate to be a couch potato, but if you're still sore, make sure that you are stretching. Go out and go for a jog. Take the dog out for a little jog. I'm sure they like that. Unless, of course, you're in the Northeast here where we have 9 inches of snow overnight, then maybe do the jog on the treadmill. Okay. Now, we need to remember Disney races are a bit unique versus pretty much every other race out there. You had multiple early mornings, many hours on your feet before the race even started. So take care of your feet. You may have blisters, you may not, but make sure that you're wearing high quality shoes. And remember that just because shoes don't look worn doesn't mean that they aren't worn. I certainly have a pair or 3 of shoes that have only been used on the treadmill, for example. If you look at the soles of them, they look brand new, despite having 300 to 400 miles on them. And those shoes, I guarantee you, are not doing their job as well as they were 300 or 400 miles ago. The same thing applies to any other shoe is, just because the sole is intact and looks okay does not mean that the stuff between the sole and your foot is doing its job. So pay attention to what's on your feet. You may still have some swelling. Now, swelling this far out is definitely something to pay attention to. If you have lower extremity swelling, especially in your shins, feet, and ankles, go get that checked out because you really shouldn't at this point, and that could be a signal that there is something wrong that's causing that swelling to still persist. Lastly, give yourself permission to feel however you feel. You may feel like physical crap, and that's okay. It will pass, but I want to encourage you to get out there, move, whatever that means for you. I encourage my athletes to do short easy workouts, leaving it up to them to decide if they do it or not. As I said before, like the week before a race is what I put on people's calendars, a bit of a suggestion versus a plan. And it's the same thing for like the week or two after race. It's more of a suggestion than a demand. All right, thinking forward. Thinking to tomorrow, your structured training plans should resume in about a week, maybe two if you're having a really rough time recovering. But a week from now, you should be feeling pretty good, back on a structured training plan. It might still not be at full intensity. Like you might still need some additional healing time. Maybe you have some tendonitis that's being nice to you. Maybe you pulled something out there. Those are kind of special cases where there's an actual underlying injury. But if you don't have any injuries, you should try to get out there in a week or two. All right. You should start to see energy returning back to normal levels. Motivation for a lot of people in the couple weeks after a race can be really difficult to come back. You spent all this time training for the race. You did the race, and there's so many conflicting emotions afterwards because there's both the build up and then the letdown. It's very similar to the birth of a child. You have all this excitement and then the event comes. But then also you feel emotionally drained from all of the effort that went into that undertaking. That'll come back eventually, but you can help it come back. Sometimes showing up is the hardest part. And once you show up, the motivation to continue happens. So give it a try, If you're having a hard time getting some motivation, try just, lacing up your shoes and going for like a 10-15 minute, easy run. You might find that the motivation starts to come back a little bit faster than it had been. All right, closing us up now. You are 1 week after your race. However you feel is fine. It's normal. You did something really hard, something very, very few people are going to do. And yes, there are about 18,000 people who did Dopey this year, but, well, maybe not Dopey. Maybe it's just a marathon. So let's say 12 to 13,000 people who did Dopey. And you have to remember, like, of those 12 to 13,000 people, a lot of them have done it multiple times, right? So it's not 12 to 13,000 people who did their first Dopey. It's something less than that. So what I'm saying is not a lot of people in the grand scheme of things do it. So, walk away, hold yourself a little bit taller after doing it and be excited for what comes next. But remember, it was hard and your body is still on the mend. Be patient, but not too patient. Be kind to yourself. And remember, recovery time is not lost time, but it's also not do nothing time. All right. And with that, I want to say thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like or subscribe to the podcast. And just a little plug here, my company, Be Fierce Multisport, we are now doing virtual group cycling classes, both live and on demand on replay. You can find those. You can sign up for that. We are currently in beta right now. You can sign up for that at fierce.li/cycling. And with that, be fierce, be you. And I'll see you again. All right. Bye-bye.